The kitchen clock ticked softly, its rhythm swallowed by the silence of Ellen's small suburban home in Raleigh, North Carolina. At 65, Ellen sat at her worn oak table, a cold mug of chamomile tea cradled in her hands. The house, once alive with laughter and chaos, now felt like a museum of memories. Photos of her late husband, James, and their two children, David and Sarah, lined the walls. Tonight, the quiet was heavier than usual. Ellen's eyes drifted to a faded snapshot of herself at 30, radiant in a sunflower dress, painting a canvas under a summer sky. She barely recognized that woman now. For decades, Ellen had been the heartbeat of her family. She'd raised David and Sarah through sleepless nights and scraped knees, supported James through his long battle with cancer, and now poured her love into her 3 grandchildren. She cooked Thanksgiving feasts, babysat on weekends, and slipped David cash when his mechanic shop hit hard times. Sarah, a single mom, leaned on Ellen for childcare, knowing her mother would never say no. Ellen didn't complain. Sacrifice was love, wasn't it? But tonight, as she stared at the cold tea, a question gnawed at her: when was the last time I did something for me? The thought startled her. She couldn't remember. Her knitting needle sat untouched in a drawer, her garden was a tangle of weeds, and her dreams of traveling to Savannah's historic squares had faded like old wallpaper. Her knees ached from years of neglecting doctor's visits, and her reflection in the mirror showed a woman whose spark had dimmed. Ellen had given everything, her time, her money, her health, to prove her love. But who was loving her? The next morning, Ellen's routine began as always, brewing coffee, checking her phone for Sarah's inevitable text about needing help with the kids. But today, something shifted. While scrolling online, she stumbled across a YouTube video titled "After 60, Stop Sacrificing Everything for Your Kids, Here's Why." The thumbnail showed a silver-haired woman smiling, her eyes alive with purpose. Ellen clicked play, and the narrator's warm voice filled the room: "You don't have to disappear to prove your love. After 60, your time is just as precious." The words hit like a thunderclap. Ellen leaned forward, her heart racing. The video spoke of parents, especially mothers, who vanish into their caregiving roles, losing hobbies, health, and identity. It warned that endless sacrifice could breed resentment, erode health, and even strain the very relationships they cherished. But it also offered hope: by setting boundaries and reclaiming joy, older adults could live vibrantly, uplifting their families in the process. Ellen watched, tears welling, as the narrator shared stories of people who'd rediscovered themselves after years of giving too much. One story lingered: a woman who'd spent decades babysitting, only to realize her children had come to expect her constant availability. Ellen saw herself in that story. Sarah's texts often assumed Ellen was free, and David's calls usually ended with a request for money. She loved them fiercely, but the video's truth stung: her children didn't need her suffering. They needed her wisdom, her example of a life well lived. That evening, Ellen sat on her porch, the autumn air cool against her skin. She thought of her grandchildren's laughter, David's quiet gratitude, Sarah's tired smiles. She didn't want to stop helping them, she couldn't imagine it, but the video's message echoed: taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. Ellen made a decision. She would try, just once, to put herself first. The next day, she called her old friend Clara, who'd been urging her to join a local painting class. "I'm in," Ellen said, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. Clara's cheer was infectious. "Ellen, you're gonna love it. It's time you got some color back in your life." The class was at a community center, a sunny room filled with easels and the scent of acrylics. As Ellen dipped her brush into vibrant blue, she felt a flicker of the woman she'd been at 30, alive, curious, free. For 2 hours, she didn't check her phone. No texts from Sarah, no worries about David's bills. Just her, the canvas, and a quiet joy she'd forgotten was possible. But change wasn't easy. When Ellen told Sarah she couldn't babysit the following weekend, she'd planned to visit a botanical garden, Sarah's voice tightened. "Mom, I really need you. The kids have a soccer game and I'm swamped." Ellen's instinct was to cave, but she held firm. "I love helping, Sarah, but I need a day for myself." how about I take the kids next weekend? There was a pause, then Sarah sighed. Okay, Mom. I'll figure it out. Ellen hung up, her heart pounding. Had she pushed too far? Would Sarah pull away? The tension grew over the weeks. David, used to Ellen's financial help, called to ask for $500 to cover a shop repair. Ellen's savings were already thin, years of helping out had eaten into her retirement fund. The video's warning about financial caregiving burnout flashed in her mind. She took a deep breath. David, I love you, but I can't keep covering these costs. Let's sit down and look at your budget together. David's silence was heavy. You always find a way, Mom, he said, his tone sharp. The words cut deep, and Ellen lay awake that night, guilt gnawing at her. Was she failing as a mother? The breaking point came a month later. Ellen was rushing to Sarah's house with a casserole, late for a grandchildren's school event she'd promised to attend. The stress of juggling everyone's needs had left her exhausted, her chest tight. As she climbed the stairs to Sarah's porch, the world spun. She collapsed, the casserole dish shattering on the steps. When she came to, Sarah's panicked face hovered above her. Mom, oh my God, are you okay? Ellen's voice was weak. I don't know. At the hospital, the doctor was blunt. Mrs. Harper, your blood pressure is through the roof. You're dehydrated, overstressed, and your body's sending warnings. If you don't slow down, you're risking a heart attack. Ellen's eyes filled with tears. She thought of James, who'd begged her to take care of herself before he passed. She thought of her grandchildren, who deserved a grandmother who could run with them, not collapse under their needs. She thought of the video. Self-neglect isn't just unhealthy. It slowly erases who you are. Sarah and David visited that evening, their faces etched with worry. Ellen seized the moment. I've been giving everything to you both, but I'm losing myself, she said, her voice steady despite the four in her arm. I want to be here for you, but I need to take care of me, too. I need time for my painting, my health, my dreams. Sarah's eyes welled up. Mom, I didn't know you felt this way. I thought you wanted to do it all. David nodded, his voice soft. I've been leaning on you too much. I'm sorry. The conversation was a turning point. Ellen began setting boundaries with love, not guilt. She joined a church choir, her alto voice ringing out for the first time in years. She started walking with Clara every morning, the crunch of leaves underfoot a reminder of life's simple pleasures. She even booked a solo trip to Savannah, something she'd dreamed of since James's death. The historic squares, draped in Spanish moss, felt like a promise, her life wasn't over. Financially, Ellen took control. She met with a financial advisor, who helped her set limits on helping David and Sarah. When Sarah lost her part-time job, Ellen offered resume advice instead of cash. To her relief, Sarah landed a better job within weeks. David, inspired by his mother's resolve, took a budgeting course and stabilized his shop. Ellen's savings grew, and with it, her dignity. She no longer lay awake worrying about bills. The greatest change was in Ellen's spirit. At a family barbecue, her grandchildren ran to her, begging to see her latest painting, a vibrant sunset over the Raleigh skyline. Sarah watched, smiling. Mom, you're glowing. I love seeing you like this. David pulled her aside later. I'm proud of you, Mom. You're showing us how to live, not just survive. Ellen's heart swelled. By choosing herself, she hadn't lost her family, she'd brought them closer. One crisp November evening, Ellen stood in her garden, now blooming with roses she'd planted herself. She wore a scarf she'd knitted, its soft wool a testament to her rediscovered creativity. Inside, a photo of her Savannah trip hung on the wall, next to the old snapshot of her at 30. The two women, one young, one wise, seemed to smile at each other. Ellen wasn't just a mother or grandmother anymore. She was Ellen Harper, alive with purpose, proof that love doesn't require sacrifice, it requires showing up as your full, vibrant self. As Thanksgiving approached, Ellen planned a smaller gathering, asking Sarah and David to bring dishes to share. The table was filled with laughter, not obligation. Ellen raised her glass, her voice clear. To family, to joy, and to living fully, at any age. Her children clinked their glasses, their eyes shining with admiration. Ellen knew then that her greatest gift wasn't her sacrifice, it was her life, lived with heart and courage.